And anyone who's gone through an experience like I have know that that is huge. It's not a small thing. That's where the sex trafficking is coming from, and all the trafficking. That's why it's so easy to hide, is because you've got all the boys clubs here doing it, who you think is doing this charity for children. No, they're not. They're sussing out who's easy to catch. I remember one time my uncle came up behind this little boy I was playing with, and we were actually laughing and having a good time, and he just took a knife and just started cutting off his head right in front of me. Jerry went in and he changed so much. This man has a huge gift, and he has an understanding that is very rare. And if you're looking for someone who can help you with the type of negative entity or satanic type of trauma, then you found your person. I came from a multi-generational satanic family, and I was groomed to be one of them. And to be groomed means that you go through quite a lot of torturous type of situations. Say, for instance, you are buried alive for 24 to 48 hours in order for what's called trauma-induced mind control or mind split to happen. And so they can give you a code word, and you basically become programmable. And they use you for their purposes. I was groomed to be what's called Monarch, and that would be a prostitute used to go between, say, for instance, politicians or other people they would deem important in order to either send sensitive information or to spy. So that was what I was initially groomed for. And of course, I most likely would not remember what I was doing. And I would be controlled by what's called a handler. So they would have someone who would always be in control of you. When you start out, say for instance, my father would be my handler. And then you would be groomed, or they would find you another handler, and who would probably become your husband or something of the sort. I was buried alive for 24 to 48 hours. My father would take me to the Freemason Lodge, where a lot of Freemasons are involved in this type of activity. I would be raped repeatedly, and I would be used for rituals. And that happened up until I was about 5-6 years old. My father considers me a failure, which I'm very proud to be a failure. And but unfortunately, when you become a failure to them, you also become a target. And if you're not usable, then they will make your life literally a living hell. I spent so many years struggling just to survive in a normal capacity. Things that would be normally easy for other people were extremely difficult for me to obtain. There would be certain things that I could do, hold down a job, I could go to school, but to actually get ahead, there was always something that would happen. Something would derail it, or I would get sick, or just there would be, I'd be raped, all kinds of things. They have a way of just finding a way to make things very difficult for you. I learned not to hope, basically, dare to hope. I learned not to learn to stay kind of at a numb level, because if I got too happy, it sent like a signal out to them to come in and make sure that I was put down again, to stop. And but I started learning as much as I possibly could. I moved to Bali, and I learned a lot of spiritual things there that were very helpful. But I seemed to never be able to break free. And with saying that, I think it's also important to say that I grew up in a very strong Christian household. You may find that interesting in the fact that I told you my father is basically a Satanist, but In the Bible, it says, be careful, for there are wolves in sheep's clothing. Well, that's what Jesus meant. There are so many Satanists that pretend to be very strong Christians, and you'll never know. But watch out for the Freemasons. That may give you a clue. My father would take me down to the Freemason Lodge, and there's a reason why the Freemason lodges don't have windows. It's because they don't want you to see what's going on inside. They have this cover of where they do charities on the outside, and they pretend to be this really great community effort kind of people. But what they're really looking for is to prey upon small children, because if you notice, a lot of them actually do charities for small children. But what they would do is they would take me to the lodge. They would do these type of rituals, but they would also put on these black cloaks, like a Grim Reaper type thing, because it would cover their faces, and so that way I wouldn't be able to recognize them when I would walk around. And they would take turns having sex with me, and or raping me, and so that happened on several occasions, and I saw so many children being murdered because what they do is they will drink the blood. It's called adrenochrome. So they become addicted to the adrenaline-based blood, and it gives them this really strong high. I'm not sure what else it does, but I've also seen other entities, not human, present as well. And that was pretty horrible. I remember one time my uncle came up behind this little boy I was playing with, and we were actually laughing and having a good time, and he just took a knife and just started cutting off his head right in front of me. And then he took his head and waved it in front of me like it was a toy. So this is the type of trauma-based mind control that they will use. And yeah, they're not good people. But they also prey on children because they're easy to control. And the one thing that they do use is fear. And if you don't fear them anymore, they lose a lot of power. I'm not saying to be careless. Yes, you need to be careful with these people. But if you're not fearful of them anymore and understand that fear is their tool, then you can understand that you've won most of the battle there. You have 80-90% of the control. Don't be afraid to speak out. The more you speak out, and speak out and let people know, because that way it protects you. And people need to be helped. And you need to know you're not alone. There's so many people out there that this is happening to. A lot of people say they won't believe me. And I felt that for a long time as well. But thank God for social media and the internet. That is now becoming, less of a thing, for sure. Because if you go online, you'll see there's so many different people. And yes, it's a hard road back, but it's a road. And it does lead back to the light. I know I was forced to kill a child one time. They try to force you to do things like that so that you'll get used to it. They try to force you to be addicted to adrenalized blood because they'll make you drink blood. And that's one of their hopes, to keep you addicted or within the family. And but it just didn't stick with me. They force you to drink it. I mean, here I am, 4 years old, and my father is going to spank me or kill a child. They will threaten to say, we're going to kill this child if you don't drink the blood. So these are the things that a small child is having to go through. So, and what they do is they will trick you into killing. Say, for instance, they will say, oh, we're going to kill your cat if you don't, and they'll blindfold you. And they'll put a knife in your hand. You don't even know it's a knife or anything. And they will say, you need to just bang down, If you don't, we'll kill your cat or something like that. And then you do it, and you don't even know that you've just killed someone. So they'll use that with Freemasons as well. It's a trick to keep them within the lodge. So some of your younger ones coming in after they've gone through for a while, and they realize that they'll do anything to be a part of the boys' club, well, then they'll make you stick. Yeah, so that's one of the rituals that they'll use. Not all Freemasons are bad because they know who they can use and who they can't. That's where the sex trafficking is coming from and all the trafficking. That's why it's so easy to hide, is because you've got all the boys clubs here doing it, who you think is doing this charity for children. No, they're not. They're sussing out who's easy to catch. Or they'll have breeders. So they'll catch younger women and then they'll breed them, or small children to sacrifice. A breeder is usually either a child that they've captured who grows up to be, in puberty, and she's just made to have babies over and over again, but she's kept in captivity. Like, no one knows who they are. But that way they have enough children to keep sacrificing and feeding their addiction. So, and I kept praying to God. It was like, what is going on? And it wasn't until after I actually left the church that things started happening for me and answers started coming to me. Say, for instance, I was walking in a big bookstore in the United States, and I said, please, if there's anything out there, I just opened myself up to any other, type of entity that could possibly send me positive light, then please do it. And I remember a book just jumped off the shelf and landed at my feet. Neil Donald Walsh, New Revelations. That was the book, who brought me out of kind of a religious mind control. I'm not anti-religious. Let me make sure you understand that. I do believe in Jesus still, and I've had conversations with that. But it's been outside of a religious program where it's just about love. It's not about so many different other controlling factors. And that broke me out of kind of the religious mind frame. That's what I'm trying to say. And my life started from there. And I started feeling a little bit better. I started learning new things. I became much more aware. But there were still these chains that I still felt around me. I still couldn't be this extremely happy. I remember I fell in love with a man who was absolutely beautiful. And it was just a few months in, and he came back from a trip he had taken, and he let me know that he was stage 4 throat cancer, and he died just a few months later. So that is an example of some of the issues that I would have as far as feeling true love or finding happiness. It's always seemed like something got derailed. And I continued to struggle with this, and there were certain things that would still get better. But then I met a woman who had gone to a talk that was given by Jerry Sargent. And she told me his story, and it really resonated with me. And she had gotten his contact information. I made a phone call, and Jerry was really nice to call me. And it just took about a minute of me telling my story, and he understood. He knew what I was talking about, because a lot of people don't know about all of this stuff, but he did. And I remember he helped me a little bit there, but I was also very skittish, going through this type of thing where they kind of constantly hunt you. It's very hard to trust anyone. So I had to leave to go back to the United States. I was in England at the time. We spoke again, and shortly after, Jerry did a session on me, and I knew right away that things were different, and that I finally found someone who knew exactly what was going on. I felt a change. Things definitely started changing. They didn't happen right away, but they did really happen over the next few weeks, and I felt like I started to breathe again, and it was safer. I was feeling much more alive. I felt safe enough to feel joy again, and that was when I knew something had definitely changed. And anyone who's gone through an experience like I have know that is huge. It's not a small thing. And it's a place now where I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. There is a just a peaceful contentness now that I feel. It is far more than I have been able to feel in a long time, and it's been consistent. And like I said again, I feel safe. Things are happening in my life that are positive, and they're staying positive. It's not a blip for just a little while and then suddenly gone. This changed so much. Jerry went in and he changed so much. There is no doubt of what I have, no doubt that I have. This man has a huge gift, and he has an understanding that is very rare. And if you're looking for someone who can help you with the type of negative entity or satanic type of trauma, then you found your person. And if anyone needs to speak about it more, I'm happy to. I plan on fighting back. And there's too many people out there like me who are afraid to come forward. And I want to make sure that people understand that there is hope, and it's okay to hope. And you're not alone. And there's someone who can help. And that's Jerry.